I never thought I would say that Garry has my respect. I never thought that I'd say Garry has my respect. God damn it, Garry has my respect. Oh, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Garry having my respect. Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 31, one of the last episodes for the year 2024. It's been a really good ride so far. We're growing in leaps and bounds on this channel. And I want us to have a conversation. Essentially, we're going to talk about just my reactions to certain fights in UFC 310 that just happened in Las Vegas. So, boy, the way you see me chuckle in humility is because I'm going to have to eat my words. I'm going to have to swallow my words. I'm going to have to swallow everything I've been saying about certain people over the last couple of months. And a humble pie does not taste good. But I say all the time, and I gotta live up to my words. I respect fighters, and I give to Caesar what is due to Caesar. So, on today's episode, we're gonna be talking about Garry versus Shakat Rakmonov. It's one of the fights we're going to talk about. We will talk about Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes. I have a lot to say about that. We're going to talk about Bryce Mitchell versus Kron Gracie. We're going to talk about the main event, Alexander Pantoja versus Asukara. We will talk about the judges at UFC 310. Like, this is getting out of hand. Something needs to be done. I don't know what it is, but something just needs to be done. Okay? We're going to also talk about Merab versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Merab Wallace-Shrilly, the current UFC bantamweight champion, versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Got a lot to say on the press conference and just stuff that I saw, the UFC 311 press conference, right? That's happening, the fight itself is happening, I believe it's January 18th in Los Angeles. And, you know, let's get into it. Let's dig into these fights that I've been thinking about a lot since I watched the pay-per-view. However, before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to a couple of people. Shout out to Vicente Luque, who got a devastating anaconda choke on Temba Garambe, or Garambo. Garambo? Temba Garambe, I believe. Listen, if I butcher the name, I sincerely apologize. You know, our African names can be challenging even for Africans ourselves, because even though we may all be from the same continent, we're from different countries, and sometimes I have challenges as well pronouncing the names of certain citizens from different countries, and that goes all the way to Russian names, African names, damn it, some Hispanic names as well. But hey, forgive me, I'll do better, right? But shout out to Vicente Luque. Shout out to my boy, Kennedy Nzechukwu. Not Nzechukwu. Kennedy Nzechukwu. That is how you pronounce the name. Trust me, Nigerian here, saying what it is. And Chase Cooper. Shout out to Kennedy Nzechukwu because Kennedy had a first round KO in the early prelims. He's not fighting at heavyweight, and he's doing a lot better than when he fought at light heavyweight. And quite frankly, I would love to have a conversation with Kennedy Nzechukwu to hear more about his story. Shout out to Chase Cooper, because Chase Cooper went in there and finished a legend in Clay Guida with an arm triangle or arm bar. And he doesn't look it, but he's making some progression in the fight. I don't want to hear anybody say, in the fight game. I don't want to hear anybody saying anything about Clay Guida being very old. Clay is still a very dangerous fighter, even at 43. He still has that dog in him, and he's still a very, very, very dangerous opponent for anybody in that weight class. Let's not even go into it. Chase went in there and did what he had to do. Very unassuming. Doesn't look like he has those kind of fighting skills. He's one of those very rare fighters who don't look like fighters. I mean, I will put what's Monkey King's name? Jordan. Listen, him, Monkey King. God damn it! I'm gonna remember your name. God damn it. I will put Ben Askren is also in that conversation. Chase Cooper is also in that conversation, and a lot more. There are a lot of guys that look very geeky. Steve Erceg, who fought Alexander Pantoja for the belt the last time. He also looks like, these little guys who look geeky as hell, look nerdy as hell, but are supreme ninjas. Yeah, very deceptive. Shout out to them. All these guys did really great in their fights. I watched every single fight from the early prelims, 6 p.m. Eastern time, all the way to the main event. I watched everything, didn't blink, didn't bat an eyelid. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there for those guys. I want to start with Anthony Smith versus Dominic Reyes and my reaction to that fight. Listen, guys, I was watching that fight and I said to myself, 2 minutes into the fight, I said, Anthony Smith is not in this fight with the right mindset. I saw an interview earlier. I had no idea leading up to the fight, but I saw an interview a couple of days ago that, maybe 2 days ago, 3 days ago, that Anthony Smith had lost a close friend and training partner / coach / mentor to him. And he was dealing with the pain and needed an outlet. He said he didn't care about the win. He didn't care about the loss or the result of the fight. He just wanted to go in there and break stuff. All well and good. He needed an outlet. Now the question is, at this level, sir, Mr. Anthony Smith, I understand what you're going through and I empathize and sympathize with you 100%. But you really shouldn't have taken that fight. I mean, what is the point of fighting if you already make enough money to take care of your family? You're not really caring about legacy. You don't even have the dog in you anymore. You don't care about winning. You don't care about the belt. What is it? What's in it for you? I don't understand that. The lack of motivation or the lack of an objective goal for you to chase in fighting. Then why are you there? I mean, even if the goal is to be a gatekeeper, like, you know what? I'm here. I'm not going on a title run, but I also don't want to stop fighting because I still have the dog in me to fight. I still have that fire for fighting. I still love it and I'm still passionate about it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remain in my division and I'm going to test this young up-and-comers. I'm going to be the gatekeeper of my division. Some guys have relaxed and accepted that role in their various divisions. Derek Brunson was one of them in the middleweight division. Right now, I think the most active gatekeeper in any division, I think, would be Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland has never said he's looking for a belt. I just don't see it. Kevin Holland just likes to fight. He likes to entertain, right? And he's in the position where if he wanted to make a title run, he could, but he just really hasn't. But he's taking fights. He's very active. I never hear him really in interviews pushing for a title run. If it happens, it happens. He's one of those fighters that just goes with the wind. Anthony Smith doesn't have that. The fight I watched between Anthony Smith and Dominic Reyes was a fight where a fighter just wanted to go in there and get beaten up. I will never understand the psychology of that, right? I will never understand that. Like for me, I've had to deal with personal loss in my life, and I find that being more productive in times of loss helps me deal with the grief. But that's just me. And grief affects people different way, just like art. And it's not for me to tell people how to grieve. If that's Anthony's way of dealing with it, all well and good. But you don't need to bring that to the main stage under the bright lights. You literally could have done that in sparring in the gym. If you wanted to break something or you wanted to be broken, you could have done that in the gym, Anthony Smith. And guys, if you followed me for a little bit, which I haven't been on this platform for too long, but you guys know, I've had times in the past where I point out that Anthony Smith needs to retire, because I've noticed a long time ago that Anthony Smith does not have the dog in him for fighting anymore. I don't want to pay money to see that. I don't want to pay money to see a fighter who is not motivated or a fighter who has literally zero goals in the fight game. I'm not saying zero personal goals like in his personal life, because clearly the motivation to come into this fight for Anthony Smith was to come and get beaten up. Yeah, all that shit about him saying he wanted to break something, I don't think he was even really sure about himself. No. I don't want to see a fighter, I don't want to pay money to see a fighter with that kind of mindset. I think it's a disservice to someone else who's on the roster that could have taken that fight. I think it's a disservice also to the fans who paid this money to see an exciting, motivated fighter. Sometimes we want to see people lose, but at least we want to see a motivated fighter lose or win. Nobody wants to see an unmotivated fighter go into the octagon and lose or win. Who wants to see that? Is that how it works? That's not how it works. When we bring out our hard-earned money, we want to see the best fights. We want people to win us over. And if that's not your desire, because guess what? This business runs on us, the fans. If your desire is no longer to entertain us or motivate yourself to get the ultimate goal in whatever division you're in, please get out of the fight game. And Uncle Dana shares this exact sentiment, because at the UFC, the post-fight press conference, a reporter asked Uncle Dana, he pointed out to Uncle Dana that some of the veterans on the card, on the entire fight card, lost. Anthony Smith lost to Dominic Reyes, Clay Guida lost to Chase Cooper, and Chris Weidman lost to Eric Anders, right? And all three guys, except for Clay, actually these guys, all these guys, veterans who have lost, except for Clay Guida, I don't think the rest of them have real motivation. I'm sorry, but that includes Chris Weidman. I think Chris Weidman is at a point where he's just, I hate to say this. I feel like Chris Weidman is beginning to enter that little, or has entered that little delusional phase of an aging fighter who still thinks he's got it and is in there trying to compete against killers to prove a point, but is only going to go south from there. Tony Ferguson is also in that conversation. Anderson Silva at some point got to that point too. Yeah, listen, Dana says guys like that with that kind of mindset should retire. Who's gonna argue with him? Anthony Smith has a fairly decent presence outside the octagon, right? As an analyst. Stick to being an analyst. Stick to doing that. If you don't have that motivation again, stick to doing that. Look at Paul Felder, man. Paul Felder is doing very well in his role as an analyst. Retired, not really looking to come back. He's really still into fitness, offline, outside of fighting. I think he's does a lot of triathlon, right? Look at Daniel Cormier. These guys have settled into their analyst roles. What's his name? Alan Dubain? Him. This dude, right? Same thing, retired, enjoying his role as an analyst. Dan, what's his name? Dan Hardy, formerly in the UFC, left the UFC because of some controversial issues between him, Herb Dean, and Dana White. Dan Hardy, still very involved in the commentary and analyst aspects of the fight game. Not a problem, okay? That's what we all do, myself included, right? Although I carve my own niche in my own way. Anyway, but that's besides the point. When you are in the same mindset with Anthony Smith, bro, you cannot do it anymore. It behooves me to say, you can't do that to yourself. Very sorry, it is what it is, right? And having gone through that kind of loss, I think there should be some kind of general consensus that if a fighter has gone through loss, I think they shouldn't get into the octagon, especially if it's loss that has happened within the last 4 weeks towards the fight. If it's happened anytime within 4 weeks to a fight date, yeah, they should call it off. People grieve differently. Some want to go there as an outlet, and then some just want to step back and stay away from it all. Stepping back and staying away from it all is not a bad thing. And if you're the type who likes to go to smash stuff, please do it in the gym. That's still a controlled, sanctioned environment. And really, it's respectful to the fans when you can do stuff like that in the gym. Don't bring that shit out for us to see. If I want to see a saddened fighter online, yeah, there are many places to see that. I can go on his personal page. I follow Anthony Smith on social media. I can go there and see him, whatever messages he's putting out there into the world that reflect his state of mind. I can see it there. I don't want to pay money for it. That shit should be free. And I feel bad that I'm going in on him, especially at this point in time where he's feeling this vulnerable. But some stuff needs to be said. No disrespect. No disrespect. Anthony Smith, if you ever see this, no disrespect whatsoever. Completely understand grief. I've been there. I've seen it. I've lived through it. I will live through it until the day that I die. And there's more coming in the future. When we all leave, somebody's going to grieve for us. It's just what it is. But there's nothing to think about. And then when he was asked in the ring by Joe Rogan whether or not he wants to, or in the octagon, sorry, by Joe Rogan, whether or not he still thinks he has it in him or he wants to continue fighting, he says, I don't know. I'm going to have to do some thinking. But there's nothing to think about. You've been done for the last 5 or 6 fights. This is the same reality check I gave to Tony Ferguson. Right? What is the point of going through an entire training camp just to come there to prove what? What are you proving? Makes no sense. If you guys think I'm being too harsh, please feel free to reflect this and let me know. But I think that these sentiments I've shared are shared by a lot of people as well. A lot of casuals, a lot of fans, a lot of experts think the same thing. I mean, the fucking president of the UFC thinks exactly what I'm saying. You know? It was a display of self-flagellation. I believe that's what it said. You know how, that's that act in the Roman Catholic Church or Orthodox Roman Catholic Church where, for penance, you whip your ass with the whatever that is, the whip thing. That's what I thought Anthony Smith went in there to do. And it was confirmed by Dominic Reyes, because after the fight, Dominic Reyes had an interview where he mentioned that Anthony told him at some point in the fight to punch him in the face. Yeah, you don't need to tell him to punch you in the face. It's a professional fight. He's going to punch you in the face in order to get the W. But that goes to show you the kind of mindset he was using to go into the fight, right? And I don't even think, again, in sharp contrast, I'm going to point out that Michael Chiesa also dedicated his fight, that win, to somebody he lost also, a member of the UFC staff, production staff. Can't remember the name, but Chiesa went in there also in the mindset to fight for a guy who was close to him, who had passed on. But can you see the attitude between the two? Both grieving, but both have the distinction between the mindsets and the performances was very telling. So, I think I'll leave it here for now. I don't want to waste too much time talking about Anthony Smith, but that really pissed me off so much watching that entire fight. I was watching, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this dude doing? He could have done this in sparring. What the fuck is this? Anyway, shout out to Dominic Reyes for doing what he did. He got that W. I don't care how you do it. A win is a win. Shout out to Dominic Reyes, well deserved. Not taking anything from Dominic Reyes, because with the kind of mindset Anthony Smith used to go into that fight, I swear to God, the fucking bantamweight could have kicked his ass as well. But again, no disrespect here, and nothing to take away from Dominic Reyes, but I don't think he fought the most complete version of Anthony Smith. And that's okay. He got his W. I have nothing against it. Let's transition. Speaking about guys that are overrated, in more recent weeks, people like Bo Nickel, it's a decorated wrestler, he's coming to the UFC, he's undefeated in the UFC, and a lot of people have been saying that Bo Nickel is underrated. I even put a video out asking, what the hell did Bo Nickel do to all of you? Do you guys really want to know who is underrated? This is gonna sting, so you better get ready. Kron Gracie. Kron Gracie is stupidly overrated. And I'll explain why. We all know what the name Gracie stands for or represents in not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what Gracies represent in all of combat sports, and particularly the UFC. It's like having a name. There are these athletes that have made such a big and profound impact on the sport by their name alone. If you come into the UFC, you have a name, a surname, Silva, you already know. If in the future, some girl comes into the UFC with a surname like Jones, you already know. If somebody comes into the UFC in the future with a surname like Nurmagomedov, you already know. McGregor, Lesnar, they are just St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, right? Not Michael, Demetrius. If those people or anybody related to them comes into the UFC, there's already an expectation. It's sort of like when Brandon Lee started acting. You come into acting with a name like Lee when your dad was Bruce Lee. Can you imagine the kind of pressure that is put on you in your personal life and also as an actor with your dad being that much of a mega superstar? Anyway, all this to say, Kron Gracie's name is the only reason why he gets the kind of spots and eyes in the UFC. Outside of the UFC, I don't know Kron Gracie. In fact, I did not know Kron Gracie until his first fight in the UFC. And I don't know if I've ever been impressed by Kron Gracie. Not saying I watch a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments. Don't get me wrong. He might be fantastic there. He might be as great as Gordon Ryan, I believe. Whatever. Damian Maia, whoever. He might be as great as these people. But in mixed martial arts, Kron Gracie sucks ass. Sucks absolute ass. And you can tell he sucks ass as a mixed martial artist because even Bryce Mitchell, don't get me wrong, I fucking love Bryce Mitchell. I thought when Josh Emmett knocked him the fuck out, I was honestly, my heart skipped. My heart was pounding. Like, I hope Bryce Mitchell is okay. Outside the octagon, Bryce Mitchell is very humble. It's very conservative, very religious. I like him. I like his message. He says some controversial things, but even when he says some things and he fucks up, he acknowledges and takes accountability for his words, as evidenced by the extra apology he did to Joe Rogan in the post interview, in the octagon interview, post-fight interview, right? So Kron Gracie faces Bryce Mitchell. And even in the first round, not only did Bryce take him down, and Bryce took him down multiple times. Not only did Bryce take him down, Bryce completely dominated him on the ground, right? Now, in the second round, Kron Gracie had a little bit of success where he almost got Bryce Mitchell in an armbar, right? Almost got it. It looked somewhat close, but Bryce was composed enough. Unfortunately, I think that happened because Bryce had he probably didn't have a lot of octagon awareness, and he got himself up against the cage. And for those of you who know, if you're like a good grappler, you know the cage is very helpful when it comes to either takedowns or wrestling or grappling or setting up certain positions in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The cage helps, gives you better balance for some people, and in some cases it doesn't help, you know. But that, I think, was the only reason why Gracie could have sort of gotten that close to submitting Bryce Mitchell. But then you notice something. Every time him and Bryce would lock horns, he would jump into this kind of guard to try and take it to the ground in an attempt to get maybe a guillotine or some kind of other submission. Not a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu expert, just a casual speaking here. And he did that one too many times. So much so that in the third round, Bryce Mitchell locked in with Kron again, and while they were standing up, and Kron did the same thing, raised his leg, wrapped it around Bryce Mitchell in an attempt to take that fight to the ground. Oh boy, did Bryce Mitchell take it to the ground. Bryce Mitchell held him close, put a forearm against his neck, and threw that boy's head on the floor with a big ass slam. Slammed the head on the floor. Before he knew what was happening, two Tug Nasty elbows landed on Gracie. In fact, if I'm being honest, Kron was out by the first elbow. The second one was for good measure, like the Dan Anderson bomb on Michael Bisping. The second elbow was for good measure, but Kron was out by the first elbow. You know what I said? I said, thank goodness. And I'm not trying to, God, I'm not trying to rain on this guy's parade. How do I say these things without sounding like a complete asshole? But I loved it. I loved the fact that he was finished that way. His striking sucks for shit. You can't come into mixed martial arts with a predominantly one-sided skill set. And that's it. It's the jiu-jitsu. This is a mixed martial arts competition, bruh. This is not a jiu-jitsu competition. And if he can't strike, then what's the point? What is the point of being in the UFC? He's not a well-rounded fighter. Extremely overrated, in my personal opinion. And if he did not have a name, if his last name was not Gracie, I'm sorry. Yeah, we probably would not have had eyes on him. Let's say his name was Skaczynski. Kron Skaczynski. How long do you think he's going to last in the UFC? CM Punk was a more entertaining fighter, or more I'm sorry. CM Punk was a more rounded MMA fighter than Gracie is. It's just what it is. That's my personal assessment. You can be angry with me, you can take it to the bank, call me all sorts of names. I don't care. I said what I said. And I don't want to see another Gracie fight on a main card or any prelim. Please, let Gracie start from the bottom of whatever division he finds himself. And not only that, please put him on the early prelims. I don't even want to see it. Why are we giving him that much exposure when there are so many other guys that really need it? There are so many other guys the UFC can platform. Why are we doing this? Because they don't have big names? There's so many other guys the UFC can platform and give that spotlight to. And I think they deserve it. My personal opinion. Okay? Congratulations, Bryce Mitchell. You made me very happy. Actually, quite frankly, you made me some money too. You made me some chingalingalingy, some good money. Good money. I'm impressed. Right? Who knows? Maybe I'll come over there in Arkansas and come see your farm, Bryce Mitchell. Send you a DM if you guys feel so good and so inclined to respond. All right. Let's talk about the main event very briefly. I don't really have much to say about the main event, right? It's simply, to me, my assessment of the main event is like there is this this young gun coming to fight a veteran. Classic story, we've heard it before. but then it brings this new element of promotional representation. Pantoja representing the UFC and what's his name? Asukara representing Reyes over there in Japan. Now, I think Dana's calculation for that fight was that because the UFC doesn't have a Japanese champion and has never had a Japanese champion, considering how popular fighting is over in Japan and Asia. It's amazing that that has not been the case so far in 30 years of the UFC, right? Very, 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 very amazing that that is the case. However, I think Dana's calculation might have been, it's not, I don't even think it's a case of Pantoja has cleaned out the division and there's nobody else to fight. There's always rematches or some kind of contender to fight. But I like the fact that the UFC looked outside of the UFC 125 division to get him a new challenge. If Asukara had made it, if that boy had made it in and beaten Pantoja, what do you think that really says about the reflection of the quality of fighters at the UFC? Like I keep saying, the UFC is the premier fighting promotion in the world. And that fight is it just proves it. It proves it. Because Asukara has been under the big lights. He has millions and millions of followers across social media in Japan. He's a superstar. Young, hungry, champion, lethal. Comes into the UFC with a lot of hype, a lot of flair, so to speak. Yeah, but flares don't fight for you in the octagon, boy. You came in and ate that little humble pie, and it's okay. It's okay. I don't even feel mad about it. Right? I think Pantoja has worked hard. Came in there with a crazy pace, looked very, very good. Striking was on point. His grappling was even better. And we saw the results. Okay? And Asukara is now in the UFC. Eventually, that's bringing new eyes and a new fan base from Japan to the UFC. And I like it. I like the fact that the business is growing and it continues to grow. UFC is one of my favorite companies globally. That's all I'll say about that. Congrats to Alexander Pantoja. I personally don't think he should be calling out Demetrius Johnson because number one, Demetrius Johnson is not only way older, he's not even focused on mixed martial arts anymore, and he's actually retired. Demetrius Johnson has said time and time again that his current focus is either Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not active combat fighting anymore, and he wants to build his brand outside of, online. Doing so with his Mighty podcast and many other appearances that he makes, across different spaces. Okay, so that's all I'll say about that. The co-main event: Ian Machado Garry, Shakat Rakmonov. Ian Garry has my respect for several reasons. One, the balls to step up, put his all on the line, going against Shakat, who is the boogeyman of that division, and Shakat, who has submitted him in wrestling, in training many years ago. I give props to whoever props is due. I really do. I give props to whoever props is due. And we have to give props to Ian Garry, guys. Not only did Ian Garry go out there to fight, he made that fight very competitive. He's the first guy to take Shakat across 5 rounds. 18-0. He's now 19-0, but he was 18-0. Shakat was 18-0 coming into that fight and has finished every single opponent. So Ian Garry, in my personal opinion, won by completely taking that winning streak of finishes and made it what it was. But even just the balls to step up. And then after the fight, for someone who has such a very high, who was such a big prospect in that division, for him to accept the loss so graciously, his energy remained the same. I truly believe he doesn't believe he lost. He was a winner, and I agree. He was a winner as well that night because the stock went up. Bro, if you can get the dumb casuals respect on a fight, especially if you're a fighter that I do not like, and you can get my respect, you must have done something good. You might have done something. You might have done something good, bro. You gotta have done something good. You got my respect. From the team that he trains with, Ian Garry is good on the mic as well. We all know he has some outside the octagon antics. But man, that was a good fight. In fact, that was my best fight of the night. Ian Garry versus Shakat. And funny enough, going into that fight, of course, you guys know I wasn't a fan of Ian Garry. I am now, I've got to say. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I've actually watched Ian Garry fight live. That was against, I think it was Ian Garry against Daniel Rodriguez. That was the first time I saw Ian Garry fight live. I've just, again, never been a fan until now. I have a right to change my mind, right? But he didn't earn that by mistake. He literally went out there and earned it by commitment, hard work, dedication, resilience, and effort. A for fucking effort. A plus for effort for Ian Garry. There's a lot at stake, right? For such a prospect. And argue all you want. Ian Garry has all the trappings of becoming a champion in the not so distant future. And I really wish him the best. I wish him the best. I wish Colby Covington had taken that fight. Who knows how that would have been. But now Colby's fighting Joaquin Buckley. Can't wait to see that next weekend. Let's see how that turns out. If I'm Colby, why the fuck am I going to take Joaquin Buckley over Ian Garry? Like, I don't know what the UFC's reasoning was. Could it have been that Colby has been in a certain position for a long time? He's been a gatekeeper, contender for a long time. Is he going to disrupt the flow of I do not know what the idea behind placing Buckley and Colby to fight each other when Machado Garry was there to fight Colby and has been calling out Colby for the longest time. I don't know. I don't know what it is. If Buckley wins Colby, I guess then I think Ian Garry and Colby should fight and settle that. But if Buckley doesn't win and Colby does win, who's he going to fight next? Just looking at the landscape in the welterweight division. Say Shakat and Belal fights. Either one loses. Do you give Colby that fight? No. Could be a rematch depending on how that fight goes. Or say Shakat and Belal fights, whoever wins. Yeah, I don't see it. There's Kamaru Usman also there in contention. How are we going to spin that? I don't know. My matchmaking brain is not exactly aligning right now. But we'll see. Yeah. I'm really thinking about it. Like, how do you spin that? How do you fix them up? How do you fix them up with just? So in my brain, I'm thinking about the dynamic of the top 5 in welterweight right now. Belal is the champ. Clearly, Shakat is now the official contender, right? Interim belt, no interim belt, doesn't matter. Shakat was the contender even before the last fight. Shakat is a clear contender now. So we have Garry who's out there. We have Kamaru Usman who's out there. We have Colby Covington who's out there. We have Joaquin Buckley who's rising through the ranks. What are we doing? What are we looking at? I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see how all this plays out. At the end of the day, I like momentum, and you know that momentum works very well regardless of the division. I love it. I love how that's going. I love how that is going. Right? Respect to Garry, bros. Ian went in there and he fucking saved. Ian saved that card, man. Garry saved that card. He did. Even if it was for an interim belt, he would have still lost, clearly. But man, I've never seen someone lose so I've never really seen a situation where a fighter with that kind of record loses this way, and I don't even feel like it was a loss. This is the first time. It doesn't seem like a loss to me. That's how much effort, that's how much dog Garry put into that fight. How can you not respect that? How? Not even possible. I fucking respect it. 100%. That's all I can say. That's all I can say for Ian Machado Garry. His last 2 fights, the fight with MVP and the fight with Shakat, that's my reaction. Well done. Let's fucking talk about the judges. Guys, on the same night that I mentioned previously that I saw Garry for the first time, I saw Bryan Battle fight for the first time also in that crowd. And I think that's the crowd, that's the night he had his KO, very short KO, first round KO of the opponent that night. Can't remember who it was. And I'm like, this dude has some prospects, right? And he's gone on to do other things. So UFC 310 comes around and I see that Bryan Battle is going to fight Rude Boy Randy Brown. And I love Randy Brown. But I also love Bryan Battle. It's one of those ones where I prefer both guys, and whoever wins is fine. But I really think that Randy Brown was robbed. I thought Randy Brown had 2 of those rounds, and it wasn't even that close, in my personal opinion. How those fucking judges said that was Bryan Battle's win, I don't know. And Bryan's my boy. Like, I love Bryan Battle. I love him. And on the mic, that dude doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about you. I love Bryan Battle. Don't get me wrong. But man, I think Randy Brown won that fight. That is bad enough that they robbed Randy Brown that night. These fucking judges struck twice on the same fucking night with Alexander Volkov versus Cyril Gane 2, the rematch. Right? These guys don't really care. What is the deal with these dudes? Ciryl Gane knew he lost. Fuck what he was saying about he had a broken toe and whatever. But he was very happy for the W. Of course you'll be fucking happy for the W. You lost that, bro. You lost that fight. Ciryl Gane. You know you lost it. We all saw you lost it. That fight should have gone to Alexander Volkov. When the judges made that announcement, I almost smashed my TV. I'm like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? So much so that Dana White stood up from his seat, walked over to Alexander Volkov and apologized to Volkov on behalf of these fucking judges. And then the head of the Vegas Commission said he came over to, apparently came over to Dana White trying to explain their rationale behind the decision. When you win, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't even a boring fight, it was an exciting fight. But when you win an exciting fight, when you lose an exciting fight and you're announced as the winner and people are booing, what does that tell you? The arena, it was boos upon boos upon boos. Because everybody saw the robbery, it was daylight robbery. Alexander Volkov was robbed. Right? And that was a title run just fucking thrown away. But I'd love to see Volkov at least get a shot. Now he has to go at least, Volkov now has to go on another 2 or 3 fight win streak to potentially be considered for a title shot. Is that fair? No, it's not. And I'm pissed off about it though. I'm really pissed. I'm really pissed. So also I sent Volkov a DM. I'm sure he's not going to see it, but fuck that. I was really pissed. He won that fight. I don't care what anybody says. Guys, you guys think Ciryl Gane won that fight? If you do, please tell me why you think Ciryl Gane won the fight. I'll be very happy to listen to your arguments, even though it's going to be very hard to convince me. I'll be very happy to hear what you guys have to say because I like your feedback and your engagement. But boy, something needs to be done about these judges. Something needs to be done. We can't keep having fighters being robbed in broad daylight on national TV after all the blood, sweats, and guts and the money they lose every time a judge makes a bad decision. Every time. This can't go on. And I really hope that something is done about it in 2025. Really. I hope so. Whew. Rant over. Transitioning to the very last story I think I'm going to touch on. Touch on Merab Valishvili, the UFC current bantamweight champion, and Umar Nurmagomedov. The press conference. Actually, backstage at the press conference, Merab and Umar got into an altercation. Nate Diaz and Islam Makhachev also got into an altercation. It's altercation galore backstage. I think the UFC has become very more prepared in handling this backstage altercation. Security, UFC security, they're a lot tighter. Side note right here. UFC security did not want Belal Muhammad, the current welterweight champion, to get in the ring. Bro, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? And I don't blame Belal for calling them out. Guys, that's the champion trying to promote his fight. And the winner, Shakat Rakmonov, asked him to come in. And it's all respectful sportsmanship. It's respectful sportsmanship. What is the problem with that? Has Bilal ever demonstrated any kind of emotional irregularity has there ever been cause for you guys to restrain him in the past? No. The fuck was that? Anyway, Merab and Umar, sorry. I watched the press conference, the UFC 311 press conference, and Merab was extremely agitated. And I kept asking myself, like, why is Merab this agitated? Like, what is the, why? What's the deal? Why is he so angry? What did Umar say online? And we all know it's not Umar who runs that Twitter account. Look at what Umar says. Ali Abdulaziz. Let me put it this way. What did Ali Abdulaziz say on Umar Nurmagomedov's Twitter account that made Merab so pissed? Because I sort of been following that for a little bit, and it's simply Merab wins the belt from Sean O'Malley. Prior to that fight, Merab has always indicated that he doesn't want to fight Umar Nurmagomedov because he doesn't believe that Umar deserves a title shot, because Umar skipped the line to get a title shot or to get himself to fight Corey Sandhagen as a favor from the UFC. I don't care about all that. It's not like Umar Nurmagomedov put himself out there that anybody wanted to fight him. Most people in that division did not want to fight Umar. What the fuck do you want Umar to do? The only person who stepped up to fight Umar is Corey Sandhagen, aka the badass. Corey Sandhagen. And Corey lost. You guys know what I feel about that. I said, my advice to Corey was that Corey should pick his fights more strategically. At this point, we already know he's a badass. He doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. But, what did Umar do to Merab? There's nothing really you can point to, except at this point, I think Merab is scared. If anybody says Merab is scared to fight Umar, listen, I don't care if Dana disagrees with that theory or that narrative, but the truth of the matter is the way it looks like Merab is scared. He said he wanted to fight Sean O'Malley. He's going to wait till O'Malley comes back, and then, he's going to fight Peter Yan because Peter Yan is so... Peter Yan was very impressive against Davison Figueroa. No. Umar Nurmagomedov has been a contender for a very long time. Merab, you will do what the UFC says you should do. Yeah? If he feels disrespected, then what does he feel disrespected by? Umar didn't say anything that was disrespectful. He thinks you're ducking him. So do we. Because anytime Umar's name is mentioned, you go into this little tantrum about Umar hasn't earned it. When even your teammate Aljamain Sterling alluded to the fact that Umar deserves it. At some point in the past, Aljo said that, right? Am I wrong? What am I missing? Anyway, UFC 311 cannot come fast enough. I want to see how that's going to play out. Right? At this point, I'm not even really focused on Islam Makhachev and Arman Sarukian. I'm not even really focused on that. I'll be focused on that maybe in about 3 or 4 weeks. Right now, I'm very focused on Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab. I think stylistically, Umar is the biggest threat to Merab, and he knows it. I think that's what we're seeing. That's the reflection of what we're seeing. I have been known to be wrong, but one thing I have not been known to do is not give respect when that respect is earned. And with that said, thank you guys for listening to this damn fucking rant for this long. I'm going to chop it up as usual for you guys in smaller bites so you can hear a few things from what I said, and we'll post them out later in the week. If you've been here this long, I thank you guys very much. I have one more episode to do. Hopefully, one more episode before the end of the year. I'm gonna do an episode with my favorite fights of the year. Might be, yeah, some of my favorite fighters of the year. Might do a top 10. What do you guys think? Yes, no? Yes? Let me know in the comment section, okay? I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Please like this video, share this video, hit the notification button for more videos when I put them out, and please engage in the comment section. I thank you guys for being here this long. I'll keep doing this shit until the wheels fall off. Mr. TDC signing out. Peace.